Welcome to another great show. We have another great guest with us. We have Brittini Bowers with us. Thanks for joining us, Brittini.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Hey, so tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in the business? What got you in the business?
Yeah, so I've been licensed for 2 years, but I've been working in the real estate world for probably about 6, maybe close to 7. So I actually used to work at HomeSmart Corporate. Later decided to join my husband's team. So I've been here with him since 2019.
Okay,
So,
great,
yeah.
great. So I guess what made you transition over? Did you see something that you liked better on this side of the fence, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, it's definitely the lifestyle for sure. Obviously, one of our goals is to travel and, just kind of be together whenever we can. This job's crazy, so you don't really have a lot of hours to yourself. So
Right.
being able to spend time together and still work together was really fun. So that's one of the reasons why I kind of leaped into real estate. So, and also our team was kind of growing at a faster rate than he could handle by himself. So he definitely needed a couple extra hands.
Guess that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it was a really good problem to have.
So was there any, I guess, hesitation to join in business with your husband at all, seeing that he's
No, I hear
your
that all
spouse?
the time. Like, how do you guys work together all day? And I'm like, well, we're also gone all day from each other. We kind of have our own clients. I mean, obviously we help out together, and all of our listings we co-list together, but really we have our own separate buyers, and even our sellers are pretty separate too.
Okay.
So, even though we work together, it's like we're still away from each other quite a bit during the day. But it's nice that we have that common ground, not only with our work, but we kind of vent about the same things, and when we get new ideas we can share them with each other, and we both know that the other person will understand what we're talking about. So
Makes sense.
yeah.
Makes sense. So
Yeah,
you mentioned that you guys had separate clients. Tell me a little bit about that. Is there, I guess, a different type of client that you feel you reach out to that he doesn't, or how does
Probably, yeah, I'm sure. I'm a little bit more bubbly personality. He's more of like a data-driven personality. So there's certain clients that he's really good for because they just want the numbers. They want, bottom line. So he's perfect for that. Where I'm more, I guess, patient. And so some of our clients, it just, there are times where, we're showing for months, especially in this market. So being able to kind of just build rapport with them and not always feel like they're being passed off is really important to us. That whole client experience is super, super important. So we do try to drive our personalities for our clients, but honestly, like, we both work well with all of them, but we do kind of have our own that we kind of keep. So
Okay, makes sense. Cool.
yeah.
So what is something that you did to jump in? What was the first thing you did to grab clients?
Yeah, so one thing we've always done since we started, and even before I was in real estate, this is something I would help them with, is we consistently mail our network. So very much like Bobby does, we send out postcards every single month. It's proven really strong for our marketing, just to kind of have that consistent brand awareness every single month. We update it every month with all the new listings or all the new homes that we've sold. So people always know that we're in the business and we're actively selling real estate, even though they might not even spend 2 seconds looking at that postcard. They kind of know, like, oh, Bowers team, and kind of put it to the side. So it's one of our things that, we always stepped on, and I feel like we get a lot of referrals that way. So we kind of roughly go between like 92 to 94% of all of our business is referral based.
Okay.
So
will you tell me a little bit about that mailing? So do you have a specific geographic area, or is it just your old clients? How does that work out?
So it's all our networks, our core network. So it's a group of a couple hundred people that we just consistently mail to. So we used to do farming. It's not something we currently do, but we did have minor success in that. It just wasn't something that, we wanted to pursue long term. We had other marketing ventures we wanted to try out. So, but our normal network marketing, that's, the mailers every month. And then there's several other things that we do throughout the year too, to kind of make sure that we're on top of our clients and they know our name and we're kind of top of mind with them.
Makes sense. Cool. Thank you. So coming into the industry, being on the other side, obviously you kind of see that it seems like it's greener on the other side.
Yes.
Is there anything that you thought was, you understood that maybe you didn't?
Yeah, I think one thing is, that you think, because you see it on TV all the time, is like showing houses. Like, that's majority of what we do, and that's really like the smallest part of what we do, and probably the least important part of what we do. So, going in, I was so excited to show all my clients houses, and I still am. Like, I genuinely love looking at houses, so like that's my favorite part. But it's literally the tiniest thing that we do. Like, our job is so much more than that. So I think that was probably the one thing where I was like, oh, this isn't really like TV, And also, I think what another misunderstanding is that we pick houses to show for people. no, like it's a collaborative effort. Like our clients are looking in their portal and they're picking houses that they would like. Yes, we can give suggestions, but really, I mean, they know what they want at the end of the day. And usually they can kind of decipher that from some of the pictures they see on the MLS. So I thought that was a bigger deal than it was.
I appreciate you sharing that. Sometimes we do forget that.
Yeah.
It's
not like
it's
TV.
theirs, right? It is not at all like TV. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Did you grow up here in Phoenix, or?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Me and my husband are both natives here.
Okay. So tell me, when you're growing up here in Phoenix, your childhood, did you assume you'd be doing real estate or in the industry? Were there people you knew who were?
No one I knew was in the industry.
Okay.
This was nothing that I thought I would ever do, but I'm so happy and I feel like this is really like where I'm meant to be. But growing up, a lot of my family members owned a franchise. It was a math and reading learning center for children. So my whole life, that's what I was going to do. And I actually did for 5 years. I had a center in the Biltmore area. So sadly, we had to close that down. But that was what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. So when that was over, I was like, oh, I have to make a change. And obviously Chris was always in real estate. So I was like, hey, you seem to love what you do. And, you're really good at it. So maybe I'll get into that field.
Okay. So what did you guys focus on with your previous job?
So at my learning center, I was basically like the owner, the instructor. So, I mean, there was a lot of different assets to it that I kind of carried into this job. So like marketing was one thing. I had to market my own center. Yes, we're a franchise, so they do their own marketing for you, but you really have to be alive in your community. So I think that's what's important that I've transferred over to being a realtor is I have to be alive in my community. I have to be a local expert. I have to know certain things about, every single area. So similar to what I had with my franchise.
Makes sense. Cool. Yeah. I love that, alive in your area. Yeah. So I love that term. Is that something you just came up with just now?
Yeah,
or is that
right
something? Awesome. Appreciate you being honest.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so a little bit more about your growing up. Who was your role models? What did that look like for you?
Probably my grandparents. I actually purchased their learning center from them so they could retire. So I always looked up to them and what they did, and they were actually teachers before they did that. So they were just really inspiring. They're like everything. They're couple goals. They're like business goals. They're really sweet. So I learned so much from being with them and working with them.
Wow, cool. What do you think was your greatest, the most important thing you learned from them?
I think probably just to like take pride in your work. Like if you don't, feel good about what you're doing and feel good about how you're treating people, I mean, they're not going to feel good about it either. So I think just that pride of ownership in everything that you do is probably one of the biggest things I learned from them.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah. What do you think your greatest, challenges in the industry right now for you, and how are you tackling that?
Yeah, I think one of our biggest challenges right now is just like fighting the news cycle. Like I have a lot of buyers right now that are like, hey, like I've heard it's so hard to get a house. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, it is. It's harder than it used to be. But let's talk about your specific situation and kind of see how hard that's going to be. Because maybe what you're looking for, other people aren't. So it's always hard, but it might not be specifically hard for them. So I think it's just a common understanding. They hear a lot of people say, the community is really kind of saying that right now as a whole. So I think it's just kind of fighting that narrative and kind of really delving into like, is it going to be hard for you, or like, what is your situation? How can we make that work?
So with your buyers, working primarily with buyers right now in the market, the way it is, how are you finding success? Like, what are you doing?
So there's a lot of different things that we're doing. I think the first thing we're doing is we're really educating our buyers on what's going on currently in this market. And I think every week we're evolving and changing depending on how the reaction that we're getting from the offers that we're sending. So, there's a lot of different things that you can do for your client to help get your offer accepted. I mean, just something as easy as like shortening your inspection period by maybe just a couple days. I mean, that could look more attractive to a seller. So educating them on the things that they can do that cost money, and then the things that they can do that don't cost money. And then really doing your research into the home, as much as you can before obviously you get the inspection. I think just trying to figure out what is going to be the best way to approach this and just giving them all the market knowledge and obviously your best suggestion, but ultimately it's their choice at the end what they'd like to do with that. But I think the biggest thing is just educating them on what's kind of the norm now, because maybe if they last bought their house 7 years ago, it's nothing like that anymore. So it's very, very different. Like we're having to do things that we didn't even have to do a year and a half ago. So it's just really making sure that we're explaining to them why these things are happening and what they can do to make their offer more attractive.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Do you find it, more difficult, I guess you wouldn't have a clue on beforehand, before the internet.
Yeah.
But do you find people coming to you with answers they found online and a lot of misconceptions, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest one is like the Zillow's estimate, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, well, this is what it's saying it's worth, and kind of fighting that like price per square foot is kind of difficult, you know. And so that's probably, I guess, one thing that we have to kind of work on. That's probably something they're getting from the internet that isn't always true. That's not really how we price homes here, you know, because if you have the same square footage, one is fully updated, one isn't, they're not comparable. You know, you have to compare those things. And Zillow doesn't know, they haven't been in that house, or any type of other service that's giving you, you know, an estimated home value. You really have to have a local expert look into your home, actually visit your home, see what's in it, and really give you the value of your home. So I think that's one thing that people still see on the internet today that like is not 100% true. So
yeah, it's interesting battling that.
Yeah, it is. But I always look it up though too before I list someone's home or before we make an offer, because I want to see like what is the buyer seeing. Like I never look at that, but they are, you know. So I want to see like what are they, you know, seeing as far as that number. And that's actually something that I learned from Bobby. So Bobby Lieb talks about that in one of his classes. Like you got to look at this estimate. Like they're looking at that. So I think it wasn't until he said that and I was like, yeah, that's true. Like we really need to be seeing the research that they're seeing, because, you know, that's going to be in their mind as a price that they want, you know, whether it's high or whether it's low. So
that's cool. I think it's being open-minded, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And kind of just making sure you're prepared on what the buyers are seeing out there these days.
That makes sense. Sense. So do you consider yourself adventurous at all?
No, probably not. So, I'm like less of a risk taker, but my husband's like a really big risk taker. So I think we balance each other out, because I think I kind of keep him grounded and he kind of keeps me going outside my comfort zone. So, but me personally, probably not.
So when you're thinking about that right there between the two of you, what is something you think he'd do where you're like, no way?
I think a lot of it is like our marketing efforts. Like I can just think of one example, like we do, you know, Google pay-per-click. Okay. So that's one of our businesses. We drive traffic to our website. Well, when he originally told me the amount that we would be spending per month to go do this, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like, what if it doesn't work? And he's like, no, it'll work. We just got to give it time to work, and it works. So, but I would have probably never have done that. So it's just one of those things where you just, you know, you kind of got a big risk, big reward. So
I get that. Okay, understood. So with understanding that, has he like made you more adventurous, I guess?
Probably, yeah.
So have you had a chance to leave the state much, or you travel much?
Yeah, well, we obviously haven't been traveling, but yeah, we do have a lot of plans to travel in the future, especially now that, you know, with our team kind of in where they're at now and kind of everyone's feeling more comfortable with their positions. I feel like now we can kind of go, because we really work all the time. So it's just one of those things where you have to like make time for yourself to go out on vacation. So yes, our goal is to travel more. We really, really want to go to Greece, like very badly.
Why Greece?
I just think it's so beautiful. I've never seen anything like that, and I just really want to see it in person. I just love all like the white architecture against like the blue water. I just think it's so pretty.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I do a lot of Google traveling. Yeah. I don't know if you've tried that before.
I haven't, but I might now when I go home.
It's amazing. I've been to Red Square, you know, places that you never get to go to. It's pretty cool. So
I never even thought about doing that.
Try it out. You can walk the streets.
Yeah, I mean, I do that for our houses sometimes.
You can do it all over the world. I do it a lot. It's pretty fun.
I'll get outside the Phoenix area.
That's awesome. Awesome. So do you get to read much?
I do. I love to read. Okay. So
big
passion of mine.
What type of books do you typically find yourself reading?
I kind of balance between a lot of different things. So I try not to let myself read too many like nonfiction books. I try to focus on like a lot more like business books and, you know, kind of like self-help books, just because I feel like it'll expand my thinking beyond like what I already think I know. So,
Interesting.
But every once in a while I'll read like a rom-com book. So
I love that. So it's interesting what you said, that you try not to let yourself read the nonfiction.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's just trash, or what do you
think? No,
think?
I just think like it's like, I feel if I don't get very much downtime.
Okay.
So with my downtime, I feel like sometimes I want to like grow and kind of, you know, get our business to the next level. And so I feel like sometimes it's not wasted time, but kind of time where I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I would have had that back. Like, it was a good book. It wasn't great.
I hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like that with movies. Like, I'm not going to let that one go.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So what's your favorite like book that you tend to go back to?
One of them recently has been the 12-week year. I think that is a really good book. I think it gets you out of annualized thinking, which really, I feel like sometimes prohibits growth. Like we always say like, oh, during this quarter, this is our goal, right? Like week 1, you're super excited and, you're hitting all your goals. And like week 2, week 3, then it's like, oh, okay, well, at least we have, a couple more weeks left that we can finish this out. And then I feel like you never get there. So that book is really about like changing your mindset from annualized thinking to more like just like, okay, this is like a 12-week stint that we're going to do. We're going to outline our goals for the next 12 weeks. And it's not based on like, I guess, a year, like a quarter or something like that. So
I like that.
Yeah,
So did you bring a passage that you like to share?
Yes. So one thing I really like in this book is it talks a lot about accountability, because obviously you're making goals for the next 12 weeks. So one of the things they says in here is accountability is the realization that you always have choice, that in fact there are no have-tos in life. Have-tos are those things we hate to do, but do anyways because we have to. The fact is that there are no have-tos. Everything we do in life is a choice. So I just think that's really cool because it changes your mindset from like, yes, I have to do this, but I'm choosing to do this. And then later on, I won't read too much of it, but later on it talks about when you change it to choose to, it's like, okay, like I'm choosing to do this. And like, why am I choosing to do this? Okay, well, because it's going to get me to this level. So kind of just puts you more in control of rather than like, oh, I have to do this or I'm not going to get here. So
I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Taking control.
Yeah.
Taking control. Cool. Is there anything, like if I was to ask your husband, is there anything that you harp on that he'd be like, yeah, she's always talking about that? Like, what's your motto? What is that?
Probably, I think just, he always has like a term in our office, like inch things along, because he always wants things like done like right now, like that's just, he's very high D. So in his stuff that he does, like he always has to be right now, where I'm a little bit more patient. So for me, I'm always like, oh, let's just like get this to the next step. Like what's the next thing we can do? So he's always like, I love that you do that. Cause he's like, I'm just more like, we have to get it all done right now, like one track mind. So for me, I'm just more of like, let's inch this along. So if he had to say something, it'd probably be like, hey, slow down, have patience, just inch it along. That's probably what I say to him the most. So
it's good advice.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would like to do over? Anything you regret?
I don't think so. And I think closing my business was really hard for me. I loved all my children that came to my center. That was really difficult, but I would totally do it again because I think that I learned so much being a business owner at that time in that area that I think now like I can just transfer those experiences onto my new career. So I think that I don't think I would redo anything because I think it would change where I am now and who I am today, and I wouldn't want that. So
what did you do to bridge that gap, just emotionally between shutting down and starting over? What was that?
I think for me, I just kind of thought like, hey, this is your chance for a fresh start. Like I loved it so much, but there was also a lot of stress with running it by yourself, and it was just really hard. So I think that what I did is, just said, hey, like I want to do something that's going to make me happy. And I know we don't always get to follow our passion, but I think I had things to offer, and I think I had, skills that I could transfer to a new job. So just trying to remember, like, this is a fresh start. It's not a failure. You're just moving forward, and you're trying something new. So just trying to realize, like, things are always a learning opportunity, whether it's a failure or not. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What do you suppose you're most proud of?
Oh, I don't know, actually. I think probably, to kind of go back to that business, I was really proud to own. I was 21 years old when I started it, so I was the youngest franchisee. So I think that made me kind of proud, but then it didn't really end well. So I don't know, but I still am proud that I did it. Like I took a big risk, and I, gave up a lot during that time. So to run that, so I think maybe that. I think it just pushed me outside my comfort zone, made me stronger. So I think probably that whole part of my life.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Where can we find you at?
So you can find me on social media at Brittini_Bowers team. Other than that, you can always email me too. It's Brittini@souledbybowers.com, 623-695-0439. I'm always willing to share everything that we do. So you can ask anyone on my team, even if you're not with us, like I'll still share and give you examples of all of our stuff that we do. So feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's nice seeing you.